So, welcome back to the Beats with Kelly Kennedy, and I am here as your host and one of my most favorite guests, I think, in the world, Dr. Christine Schaffner, who is joining us all the way from Seattle as we are here to talk about two of my favorite products, Somnium and LymphFlo. And everybody knows Dr. Schaffner, but if you don't, she is a world renowned expert on chronic illness and wellness, and she knows so much about brain health and lymphatic health and brain heart coherence. And she just deals with chronic illness, chronic pain. And we met a few years ago and became fast friends. And I've missed her tremendously. And I'm really happy that you all needed a podcast about these so we could make a
Oh,
meeting happen today.
thank you. I know we've been talking for about a half an hour before we recorded this, so I'm so glad. It's always lovely to be in your presence, and I just have a mutual admiration for your work as well.
Well, as I've always said, your brain works differently than most, and you create products that I look for needs in the clinical practice. Like, wow, we need something to really help people sleep. We need something to help with scars. We need something to get lymph moving faster. And then Dr. Schaffner just shows up and goes like, oh, here's all this topical stuff, which I love topical ointments. But tell us how do you come up with this stuff, first of all? And then
Oh,
tell us a little bit about which started first, which was LymphFlo, and then how you generated Somnium.
well, thank you so much. And like you see, clients and patients every day in your clinic, and I do as well. And our patients teach us every day, right? What works, what doesn't work, what's missing. And there was a huge opportunity to really utilize the skin, which we know is not just the skin, right? It's the entry point into the living matrix, entry point in the tissue continuum, into the fascia, the interstitium, the lymphatics, and to really actually affect the DNA and our epigenetic expression, which is a whole other conversation and a whole other podcast and summit that we've done and had many conversations about in between all the events we go to together. And it's this idea, right, that we can really have this beautiful access point to the skin. And many of our patients, right, they have trouble. Why they're sick is they have stagnant lymph. They have a lot of breakdown in the communication network of their fascial, network. And they have compromised digestive tracts, right? And they're super sensitive and all of the things that modern life, unfortunately, has served up to the human body. And it's up to us to really create resilience, adaptability, and really the ability to regulate and have coherence in the system. And we're just we don't live in utopia, so we have a lot that we're always navigating for our patients. And so these products were born out of that. And I have to credit my dear friend and colleague and mentor and partner with these products, Dr. Marco Ruggiero. And for those of you who don't know him, he is a brilliant mind, him and his wife, who are both medical doctors. And they really have a passion for, over the years, helping children with autism, helping people with cancer, helping people in the chronic infection world. And they are brilliant minds that also saw these holes. And so we collaborated to create these two products. And LymphFlo, started first. And LymphFlo was really developed as a lymphatic drainage cream. So it is a cream that we use topically, especially on the cervical lymph nodes, to drain the brain. And that was Dr. Ruggiero's work with the late Dr. Bradstreet, where they looked at the brains of children with autism and found that they had more pooling or more congestion in their brain than the average person. And they found by accessing the cervical lymph nodes and decongesting them, they actually found a decrease in the lymph buildup in the brain. So with the knowledge of the lymphatic system that was surprisingly only discovered in 2015, we know that this is a really foundational part of how we are wired to heal our brain. And if it's not working, we see the myriad of neuroinflammatory and neurodegenerative processes that plague our patients every day. And that can also look like mental health issues as well. So it started as a lymphatic drainer that we used at night, where we had people put it on their neck at night. And we quickly found that There were so many other uses that I'm sure we're going to chat about, from scar, application to pain and circulation and other areas to get the lymph moving that we can talk about specifically. So LymphFlo started first, and then, I was talking to Marco about collaborating on other products, and he shared that he had this in the wings, and I thought this would be a brilliant connection, because in my thought process around the lymphatic system, we think about, okay, we got to get people sleeping. And then you think about that, and you think about the pineal gland, and you think about melatonin, and you think about all those things that affect our circadian biology. And then you start learning about the phases of sleep, right? That we have not only non-REM, but we also have REM sleep. And really, the most important phases of sleep for our lymphatic system are deep sleep and REM sleep. And those are the times when our bodies heal the most. And guess what? If you're traumatized and have PTSD and you're chronically, dealing with chronic infection, you have a hard time sleeping. And you actually have a hard time accessing REM sleep, because you need GABA in order to make that transition from deep sleep to REM sleep. And if you have all that trauma going on in your system, you don't know how to down regulate it and get over the hump into REM sleep. And then guess what? REM sleep is the only time in our 24-hour circadian biology cycle that our brains are completely devoid of noradrenaline. And noradrenaline is, just the most stressful hormone that we have running through the brain that we need, right? We need that at times, but, we need that dump so that we can dream and repair and, consolidate our consciousness and our trauma awareness, and really heal the brain. We can heal the amygdala and also tap into our otherworldly sensory system, through going through deep and REM sleep. And it's the most, I don't know if I mentioned, it's the time when the lymphatic system is most active. So this became a very, quick pair in my treatment protocols. I think all of my patients have at some point on their protocol Somnium and LymphFlo, and they become staples in not only their protocols, but they share with their family. And what we had people do is we had people put a little bit of the GABA cream. So it has GABA and chondroitin sulfate. And that's really Marco's special secret sauce, the chondroitin sulfate. That is by glycosaminoglycan, and the extracellular matrix structure that it helps to deliver through the skin and get into the interstitium. And this actually, the GABA with the chondroitin sulfate gets crosses the blood-brain barrier. And there's a lot of misinformation out there that how can we get GABA into the brain and all this stuff. But we actually, there's good research, good studies when we can access the blood-brain barrier through the interstitium, we can deliver different, substances like this GABA molecule. So we put, my bedtime routine is I put a little GABA Somnium on my temples, and then Marco's instructed us to do it on the thinnest part of the skin behind the ear. Yeah, on the back of the ear there. So I do all the, little application there, and then I put my LymphFlo at night on my neck, and that's like a really big staple in my protocol. And then again, I'm happy to share with and really geek out with you on all the other ways that we found that these products work together. So I'm happy to answer any questions about like what they do and why they do it, if that would be helpful as well.
Yes, and I want to say that it's part of many of our protocols, including my son's. But I find that, like you, I was instructed years ago, don't put anything on your skin that you want to put on your tongue, right? And I think that that is so important, that people don't think, oh, it just goes on my skin, it doesn't matter, it doesn't absorb. And I think both of these products are bringing our awareness to that. Please be aware of everything you're using on your skin, number one. And number two, know that your skin is a great way, because it's affecting your fascia and it's part of the circulatory system, that it's going directly into the cells through exactly the mechanism that Dr. Schaffner just talked about. But I find there's so many more uses for this than what, we have originally. Yeah, I was like, oh my God, this is going to up their ante. But how do you find, like, for some people, we have mastectomies, we have as well, breast implants and explants. When's the right time to use LymphFlo cream on a scar? If it's a more acute scar, if it's a newer scar.
Yeah, that's a great question. So LymphFlo is really gentle and very potent at the same time, and it really helps people. We use it a lot pre and post surgery for people. When we're looking at a fresh scar, we always want to use common sense and see, how it's coming together and seeing, if there's any signs of infection, and really trying to let it do its thing for that first month. It's really kind of really most active and, creating the new scar tissue that's getting laid down. And we don't want to do anything that's going to break up that process. But at the same time, we want to facilitate, good movement of lymph while we're healing. So if the scar doesn't look ready to use topically, you can go around the scar, and then having a good understanding of the lymphatic system, you use, like, obviously our breasts are part of our lymphatic system. And unfortunately, there's a lot of reasons why women have, breast, surgeries, whether they're elective or through a cancer process and so forth. And we quickly know, right, that our breasts are lymphatic tissue, and there's a huge network of lymph vessels surrounding the breast. So just even surrounding that tissue through the right lymphatic duct and the thoracic duct and the sternal lymph nodes and around the breast tissue, around the diaphragm, and then of course whether you have armpits or puffs, you want to create the more pit action. You can actually put lymph flow in the armpit as well. A thin layer goes a long way. But again, this is a really clinically applicable therapeutic tool that really helps to support your body in the healing phase,
I
especially
al-
post surgery.
I also like it right on the cisterna.
I've been putting that on Anne Marie the last few days. So
Yeah,
my
because I think it
my
helps that lower lymph to just
yeah,
stimulate it up there and the inner elbow if they have more chronic, because it relates to the autonomic nervous system and the CRT. So I always like to apply it there if they have more nervous system disorders or they have like anxiety or anything like that. I feel like
that's
it
a great
calms it down.
idea.
I also like to put the GABA or the
Ooh,
somnium in
yeah.
the autonomic nervous system to help settle them down.
Yeah, this will support phases of sleep that we shared about with the somnium, but it also like can enhance meditation. Kelly and I go to a lot of Dr. Joe Dispenza's meditations and retreats, and we bring this with us not only to help optimize our sleep, but we're getting very little on those retreats, but also to use during meditation and the meditative. It enhances, dropping more deeply into meditative states. We found that it's also like we do a fair amount of public speaking, Kelly and and I have found no matter how much I do it, when I'm in front of a large group of people, you get that moment of like, am I going to do a good job? And I just put a little bit of this cream like on my, thymus and kind of like heart center. And it just kind of helps take that, like, any of that kind of butterfly feeling before, you do something like that makes you nervous. Right. And then a lot of our patients, right, because of the congestion and the neuroinflammation in their brain, they can have insomnia, depression, anxiety. And these tools, as you drain your lymphatic system, will also lessen that. And of course, with other things that, are causing it, will lessen those responses over time.
Well, such a good point because we talk about it all the time. When you go into a deep state of sleep or parasympathetic, your body's healing and your lymph is more active. And when you get your lymph really active, you're in more state deep of healing and you're more parasympathetic and you're closer to that deep REM sleep. So it's very, chicken or the egg, but they both help. And I would say too, when we're sitting in meditation a lot, we also use our lymph cream because we're
Yeah.
sitting still and not doing a lot of movements. But
Mhm.
I think that's why I love them together because we have to move our lymph and we have to heal. If we
Yep.
don't sleep, we don't heal. If we don't move our lymph, we're not dumping out our trash. If we're not sleeping, we're not taking out our trash. Like these two things go together all the time. Do you ever use it below the belly button, somnium?
I haven't used Somnium as much below the belly button, but I don't see why not. I mean, definitely like when we think about all the lymphatic channels and the nervous system channels in the lower, part of the body, there's so much that we can do, right? So whether it's belly button scar, you want to actually use the LymphFlo on. A lot of our, female patients have the cesarean or, from laparoscopy surgery, they have not, the scar tissue, not only in the superficial layers of the fascia, but also in the deeper layers. And, we can use the LymphFlo to help soften that. We have big groups of lymph nodes on like kind of the groin or bikini line. So any pelvic inflammatory or digestive issues, you can apply there. And then behind the knees, the ankles are really good for if people have any swelling. The lymph flow can be very helpful. GABA, I mean, I think it could totally be used. When you think about pain, a lot of times people are given the drug gabapentin, and
Mhm.
gabapentin is an analog of GABA that just can be absorbed through the digestive tract because of, how they made it. So I don't, it's a good thought. I haven't applied Somnium. I usually just go for the lymph flow where people have pain and circulatory issues, but I should be actually, doing the GABA too.
So I had GABA up, lot up in my shoulder area, or
Yeah,
Somnium, GABA Somnium. It's
yeah,
an
it's the same
interchangeable
thing.
name for
Yeah,
me. Yeah,
yeah.
I'll use it a lot up here if I'm feeling stressed, like after I'm working on the computer for a long time, as
Oh,
well as
nice.
the flow, because I kind of just combine them together. I kind of like rub them
Oh,
together.
look at that, Kelly.
But then I'm an alchemist, but then I also have started to ask clients to use it on their scars once a week, because when the more traumatic the scar is, um, and I've had a lot of explant surgeries, and I'm just thinking for these women that I didn't know if you'd been using it that way, but I'm just starting to do that in the last couple months, and I'm finding that the quote exorcisms that we do at True Wellness are a little softer as we're softening the trauma before the
Mm.
trauma is released, so to speak. Does that
Oh,
make
I
sense?
love that. I love that. It can be like a really great ally to clear the fascial memory. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. You're brilliant. So yeah, I love this
Mother
like
of necessity, because I put on myself and Silas every night. It's all over my fingers, and I'm like,
yeah,
just rub it a little bit everywhere we need it.
yeah, yeah, totally, totally. I know there's really, knock on wood, I've never seen a bad reaction to these products. I mean, I honor everyone's experience. And of course, there are the canaries in the coal mine, and I treat a lot of sensitive patients. A lot of my mast cell patients tolerate these products. But yeah, I haven't ever seen a huge, whether, I mean, it might create a movement and a process that's a good thing, but I haven't seen
Right.
any like negative reactions. So as you explore different areas, you really have freedom to do that, because the GABA cream, the Somnium is not like, I mean, you put it on and it helps facilitate your sleep, but if you're still alert or you're trying to relax, it's not like you're gonna like, you know like
Yeah.
literally like be out. My husband was actually, when I put this on him for the first time, and he was like, "Oh my God, Christine, this really works. Like, do you have all your house in order? This, I mean, this thing really works." And he like, I'm like, "Yeah, I know it really works." But he's a really tired guy because he works so hard. So it wasn't, it just helped facilitate getting him into sleep. But it's good for that relaxation benefit. So yeah, just thinking of children who are either like hyperactive or going through, the process of autism and needing more support during those kind of more aggravated times. This can be helpful. We all have our moments of anxiety and agitation and irritability and stress, and it's a good ally. But I love, Kelly, I'm going to start using this, the mixing of the two and getting them together, because
Yeah.
they're slightly different bases. They're both very natural and as clean as possible with the ingredients that we use. They're formulated to really get into the skin and absorb really quickly and nice. But they're like they would I could see them working well together,
Yeah,
them being
they have a little different consistency.
yeah,
One's a
yeah.
little oilier and one's a little more matty. And I do recommend that they rub it right on their fingers before they rub it on their skin, because that makes the macrophages more active. Is that true?
Yeah, well,
Or am I
that
misremembering that?
yeah, yeah, no, that's great. I mean, that's awesome. And then you can also rub a little bit more to create like a little bit more friction and circulation to get it in the skin. function, better. And we haven't mentioned, I'll mention this to your audience, like the lymph flow, part of why it works, is it's a lymphatic drainage cream. We know that lymph is a waste clearance system and then also like an immune surveillance system. And so we need to, detox and drain the lymphatic system. And we also need to support, the reasons why there can be either a lack of immune response or an overreaction of an immune response in the lymphatics. And there's a brilliant probiotic blend that we're using probiotics, not only the probiotics in general, but the peptides that the probiotics create. That's a lot of what the microbiome does for us. It makes these really amazing byproducts of just them being there in their metabolism. And there is a probiotic macrophage activating factor that these probiotics make. So we're getting the phosphatidylcholine, the probiotic blend, and the chondroitin sulfate into the lymphatic system to support the immune system as well, because that's a lot of the time we see chronically congested lymph nodes in like the neck region is because swollen tonsils or Lyme co-infections or Epstein-Barr chronic viruses. And so we're
And I'm
getting
starting to see puffs here since COVID. A lot
yeah,
of puffs in this
yeah,
area since COVID
yeah,
in,
so
in
that's a
the
good area.
clavicle area. So that's
Yeah,
the same
yeah,
concept.
I
Yeah.
don't have any. But yeah, that's a really, good area. And real quick too, the chondroitin sulfate. So the sulfate is really important, and that can also help increase exclusion zone water in the body. And that can also support like the fascial movement and the lymphatic movement, and create more like movement and drainage in the system.
So
So the
essentially,
thing around,
by
yeah,
adding this, we're changing our internal environment, the internal, what I'm now calling the floor of the house. Instead of the furniture is the cells, the floor is the terrain and the lymphatics.
I
Because
like
after
that.
moving into two houses, I realize I have way more floor than I have furniture, kind of like we have way more lymph than we do blood or an
Yeah,
organ.
I love it.
So we're changing our environment, and then because it's a precursor, if you will, to allow the body to create white blood cells to go
Mm,
activate that mechanism to go fight and clean out the garbage.
yeah.
We're applying them specifically where the body needs that at the gatekeepers of the tonsils and the termini of the lymphatics to change that environment. And then it's structuring the water because of the beautiful molecule of the chondroitin sulfate. Then you add in the somnium cream, the GABA, and you're going to be relaxed about it all as you go to sleep and drain your lymph and sleep better and heal better and wake up and you're better.
There you go. Right? It's like that. I mean, really, we see these really wonderful clinical anecdotes that our patients teach us every day. So, I'm just always looking for tools to support people. We see so many sick people out there, and we just want to make their path more elegant and accelerate however we can their healing process. And these play really well with whatever protocol you're on. They work just to help to be synergistic and amplify what you're already doing for your health.
And I would say I probably overuse LymphFlo cream more than I do Somnium, just because for me, I'm always like, if there's something that's stuck, just put Flow on it. Is it your
Yeah.
liver? Is it your gut? Is your
Yeah.
knee? Is it your ankle? If you have stuckness, put Flow. But GABA, just real quick before we end,
Yeah.
this is when we're recording this is during a holiday season. I know that is a tough time for a lot of people. I live in the Northeast. It's just darker at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, for God's sake. So that tends to add to it. Yes, you're in Seattle. So how can GABA help them emotionally through this experience? Because we know it helps us put to sleep and all that. But how?
Yeah. Yeah. There's, a lot of things that stimulate us in our environment, so they're going to basically kind of shift us in our like more excitatory neurotransmitters and kind of our stress hormones, right? So we're going to be like in this more, as Kelly already mentioned, this like stimulated, like sympathetic state in modern life, right? That's just whatever season's happening, like that's just happening, right? And then GABA is a really great inhibitory neurotransmitter. So it really balances glutamate, that a lot of these inflammatory processes. And typically in the midst of that, there's excess glutamate in the body, and glutamate's like really stimulating and excitatory. And we need it, but it can be too much of a good thing. So GABA helps to kind of put the brakes and balance that. And so GABA just really is just this really like calm, like supportive, gentle molecule in the body that holds us, right? And really can give us space and kind of eases whatever we're going through. So that's my experience of it.
Oh, I'm going to play with that a little bit more now with the fascia now that I have that better understanding of it. Thank you.
Yeah.
We're
Although, I
definitely
mean,
going to play
that was
more.
brilliant. I never put, like the fascial memory thing, like with the GABA and um
The
the
lymph flow together. I think
the
that there's a,
lympho. I like love it. I'm gonna be playing with
yeah,
that.
I think I'm going to have to open one in clinic and let Sarah and I play with that in clinic. It
Oh
was
yeah,
with
I have these are floating
Lisa.
around my clinic all the time. I do
Yeah,
neurotherapy in my office, so I'm always
yeah.
putting flow on after I do neural therapy. I'll do neural therapy and then like scrape, smear lymph flow wherever I, injected. And that just helps to facilitate the movement,
The lymph flow, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's all about flow, as we
All
know.
we know, right? Yeah, that's
We
good to know.
do.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, thank you. And I hope that you all understand this little bit, or enjoyed rather, this little bit of a deeper dive of understanding lymph and somnium and why we're actually giving a 20% discount during the season for this. So, because we really want people to experience them if you haven't. And if you have experienced them and you love them, then get your discounted bottles, put them in your refrigerator, and be ready for whenever you need them next.
Yeah, they have a good shelf life, and you can keep them in the fridge if you choose. You don't have to.
Till
They
they're open.
Yeah, they have natural preservatives. The LymphFlo has a coconut oil, so it gets a little bit like it's nicer consistency when it's in the fridge, but at the same time, like you don't have to have it in the fridge. So what I'm just saying, as Kelly's community, we want you guys to experience this. So I'm so glad that we can offer a discount. So if it's something that you love, just feel free to stock up. The Somnium does last a while,
It
but the
does.
flow, when you get going, you're gonna have a lot of fun, and you just want to have it in your toolkit. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for creating these. They have made my life way easier in helping clients. And I know so many clients, my own personal family, my mother, my son, myself, we all use them. And these are the things like I travel with because I feel like one way or another, I can handle it with this and a little bit of digestive enzyme. I'm good to go.
yeah, there you go. That's all you need.
So
So
thank you all. And thank you from our heart to yours,
mm,
from my heart, Christine, Dr. Schaffner, to all of yours. Thank you and enjoy your holiday, your family, and this whole time of year as it is dark and it's time for us to hone in and center in and find out what we're here to change for this coming year. So take a moment, take a breath, and we will be with you as we create this next beautiful shift into this next phase of the next flow for everybody. Have a great day. Thank you so much for listening today to this episode of The Beats. And as your host, Kelly Kennedy, truly from my heart to yours, thank you for your time and your attention today. And if this did resonate with you, please do leave some comments. We would love to hear from you. And if this further you think would resonate with somebody that you know, please do go ahead and share that and hit that notification button so you know when The Beats is available to you. Thanks again for listening and for sharing. Have a great day.